welcome to Sew and Tell, where sewists from fashion, theater, and indie sewing bring their different perspectives to the hottest topics in the sewing community. I'm Amanda Carestio.
I'm Meg Healy.
And I'm Kate Zaynard. Today on the podcast, we're talking about body positivity. We'll talk about learning to love your body through sewing, and then we'll have a chat with Erica Schmitz, founder of My Body Model. We'll each share a little something in our SewJo segment, then we'll ask you to share something too. But before we get started, let's do a little check-in. Right before we started recording, we were talking about our phobias.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about that on the air?
Yeah, because I just revealed my shark one in our
last episode.
So your sharks, I am definitely grizzly bears.
Oh.
And birds. I really have a big bird phobia, and I think that it all has to do with the Dark Crystal. If you've ever seen that movie.
I don't watch scary movies. Is that scary?
No, it's a Jim Henson movie.
Yeah,
they're puppets. But what are they, the Skeksis?
I can't remember.
I think that's what they're called. Because we watched it recently with my children, which was probably a bad idea. It's a kid's movie, but it's really scary, and they're these little bird creatures. And
they're not little, they're pretty big.
They're pretty big, but like we have friends who have chickens, and they just really scare me. So that's mine.
Well, don't watch the bird. What's that, Alfred?
The Birds.
The Birds. I wouldn't recommend that one.
I will not be watching that.
Well, I don't have any serious phobias. I'm not a huge fan of snakes, to be perfectly honest.
No,
with you.
that's another one. Snakes.
Well,
and shakes.
and we were talking about snorkeling last time, and I'm also not hugely fond of spotting eels because they are like snakes. But luckily, they usually are just sticking their heads out of cracks in rocks, and I can just not look too close at the rocks, and I usually don't actually see them. But there was one time I was on a beach. I was sitting in the shallow water, and we saw an eel go wiggling by, and I was out of that water like a flash.
Yep.
Oh,
but because you were talking about your sharks thing, Meg, I wanted to tell you a story about possibly the most interesting thing that's ever happened to me.
Oh, love that.
So I was in the Caribbean with my sister and brother-in-law, and we had we were sailing. Actually, we had rented a sailboat, and we had docked at an island. It's Union Island in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And we had gone out to dinner, and we were coming back. And as we were coming back, and we were walking along this sidewalk, basically, that ran out into the ocean a bit. So on one side was the ocean and a bunch of rocks. And the ocean was, pounding up against the rocks. And on the other side was a open tank full of nurse sharks. Which are not like great whites or anything, but they're still sharks, and they were just kind of hanging out in this pool made by the sidewalk in there. And okay, fine,
sidewalk sharks. Oh.
Yeah,
I don't like where this story is headed.
I don't like where this is going.
I'm not sure where it's going, but I don't like it.
So we're walking single file down this sidewalk. I mean, it was pretty normal sized. It was maybe 4 feet across, something like that. I mean, nobody was worried about falling off or anything until my sister stopped short in front of me. And I kind of peer around her to see what's going on. And there is this very small, skinny cow that is galloping down the sidewalk towards us. Have no idea where it came from, have no idea why it was running. I don't know, but it was a cow, and it was coming towards us. And we're all sitting here looking at this like, this is not a large space that we're on. There's sharks on one side, there's rocks on the other. What is going to happen now? And my sister, she is getting down low, and she is ready. If somebody is going into that shark tank, it is going to be that cow. I mean, she is, and she's smaller than me. She's a little petite woman, and she's just like ready to go. And we just kind of moved to the side a little bit, incidentally away from the shark tank, and the cow just gallops right by us, keeps going off into the distance, and we look at each other, and we're like, did that really just happen to us?
Weren't you scared? You're walking towards where the cow is running away from. I would run with. I would be like, "Yo, this cow knows where it's going."
That cow is
smart
nuts.
cow.
There was nothing on the other side. of that sidewalk. That was at all scary. That cow was just like running for, I don't know what that cow was doing. I really don't. But it was just a cow. I mean, you don't expect to just randomly run into a cow on a sidewalk, right?
By a pool of sharks.
It's just, it was the weirdest thing. But yes, possibly the most interesting thing that's ever happened to me. Sharks.
I thought the cow and the sharks were going to be involved together more, and I was scared.
Yes. No, it turned out to be a very, I mean, it's an interesting story, but the ending was just the cow kept running and
I really
like
that ending. I like it.
Yeah, so that's my interesting story about Meg's phobia.
Wow,
sharks.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm glad. I hope you enjoyed it.
That didn't happen to me. I would have freaked out. Luckily, I just stay inside, and so
never go anywhere near cows.
I just don't do any. I just wear my gowns and wedding outfits and just stay inside.
Good plan.
I'm just joking.
All right, so all of you who joined us for sewing talk instead
we'll
of
get to that.
Cows and sharks, shall we move on to talk a little bit about body positivity? Mm-hmm. So there's a lot that goes on in society around bodies and body images. And that can actually be exacerbated by sewing for yourself, because when the patterns you're sewing don't fit you right, it feels like your body is objectively wrong, and that reinforces the messages that the media is sending you that there is a right way for your body to be. So today we're going to talk about body positivity and how sewing can help you learn to embrace the body you have instead of the body that society tells you you're supposed to have. So when we go into this, we usually start with a whole bunch of questions that we can kind of do as a round table. And apparently I have very strong thoughts on this because most of mine are actually just angry statements.
There's lots of capital letters.
Yes. Some things are in capital letters.
It makes me good feeling them.
So maybe let me just open it up to you guys and see what you want to say first about body positivity and body image.
Yay, bodies.
Yay, bodies. All bodies.
I definitely think that sewing has made my relationship with my body a lot better. In this particular, I've sewn at various points in my life, and this particular moment is when I'm kind of getting used to my body after being pregnant 3 times in a row very quickly, and making peace with the fact that my body has changed and is continuing to change as I get a little bit older. So I think the timing is really right for me right now, and it's really making me feel better about the changes that are happening. I wish that I had spent more time sewing through periods of life when I wasn't happy with my body, and because I think that it could have just helped through those rough patches, because I don't know about anybody else, but I definitely go through cycles with my weight. Yeah. I go through cycles with how I'm feeling about my body, but sewing has kind of been a constant and has been truly kind of a gift in those moments. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Well, for me, going through sewing all my wedding looks, a part of me, and I hate to even admit this, and I'm so glad I just this is all a lot easier said than done too. It's great. I love seeing all the body positive things that are happening on Instagram. Now I love seeing pattern models, a bit more shape, and I love all of, and I think it's great, and it is helping me kind of visually seeing that, and it's easier to accept. But even though there was a part of me that was scared to start my wedding garment too soon, because I wanted to be a certain shape or something for my wedding, which is brides. I feel like there's even TV shows, bridal boot
there's
camp,
a lot of pressure.
It's hard to, because deep down, am I a bad person for wanting to look great on my wedding day and maybe losing a few pounds? And that I kind of deal with, that, or should I, just embrace what I am now? And that's what I kind of did. I cut it. I was really scared to cut out my wedding outfit, because ideally in my mind, because I think I should be, smaller on my wedding day but it's a couple months away, and I would rather have something done. And so it's been a process, but I think it's I mean, it's hard in but
Yeah, I
get
mean,
through it.
I've made a lot of aspirational pants, and they never work out.
Yeah. Yeah, one should
Yeah.
always, I think one should always sew for what
Yeah.
size one is now, because you know,
Exactly.
you may never get into those aspirational pants, and that's just a waste of your time and your materials.
Right, and it ends up making you feel bad.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to go into a couple of, I just want to talk about a couple of things. So when we look at our patterns or ready-to-wear clothes as well, they're based around a set of standard sizes that are basically, you know, a standard size. Sewing 6 is, you know, whatever the measurements are for the waist and the hip and the bust. It's a little bit different with ready-to-wear because they have vanity sizing, and 6 is, you know, it basically meaningless. But all of those standards that they've ever come up with, they do it by measuring a whole bunch of women and then averaging them out to figure out those proportions. But the fact of the matter is, when they do that, I think the last time they did that was like the 70s or 80s. That's what everything's based off of now. And they often only measured white women, or a great majority of them were white women. And, you know, white women have a certain kind of shape, and some people of color have those same shapes, but a lot of them don't. And so by not taking that into account when you're doing these averages, you kind of focus everything on what the average is for white women. But when you look at the averages, you also come down to the basic fact that when they've actually done a study of it, there are very, very few women, like a percentage, like a single percentage of women who actually have that kind of hourglass shape that your patterns are designed around. So what it comes down to is they make these patterns and they say, okay, here's a base shape for you to start with, but they're not going to fit. It's not even that they're not going to fit every body. They're not going to fit most bodies.
Right.
So here's the thing that I have written in capital letters. There is
I love this.
There is no right or wrong body. There is no body that is right and no body that is wrong. The body that you have is the right body for you. And if you want to change it, if you feel like that is something that you need to do, then that is your prerogative. But if you only feel like you need to change your body because society is telling you that your body is wrong, society is wrong. Your body is right. And you have the right to do with it whatever you want to do. And if that is embrace it, like I tried to do with mine, then that is awesome. And yeah, you shouldn't feel guilty about being happy with the body you have. And you should try to be happy with the body you have. Anybody object particularly strongly?
No way.
No way.
And I feel like, I mean, yeah, I feel like that is part of why sewing is so great and why the sewing community is so great and why, you know, especially as we're growing as a community and kind of making sure that, you know, through the pattern models and everything else, that there's a representation of a wide array of different kinds of bodies. I think we're doing a pretty good job. And I think, you know, for me, there's always some catch up on the personal level, you know, and that is kind of a journey to make peace with your body and accept it. But for me, sewing has made me figure out how to dress my body, you know, more and in a way that makes me feel comfortable and makes me feel confident, and I mean that is truly a gift. I'd say the other thing that sewing has done for me in terms of kind of just figuring out my body, figuring out how to dress it and what proportions work best for me. I really think it's made me be more objective about my body. Like I, you know, it's not all this, you know, I love my body all the time. It's powerful. It's wonderful. I mean, I definitely aspire to feel that way. I don't always feel that way, but I'm also really objective with the fact that I have super short legs. And, you know, I but I know that there's no judgment there. It's
just being observant.
This is what I have to work with,
yeah.
and I love this body. These legs are very short and take very little fabric to make full-length pants. So,
there's a benefit.
There's a benefit, but I think that is, sewing. There's geometry, there's math, and I think that kind of helps pull out, I don't know, the judgment part of it for me.
Mm-hmm. Right. I think there's a value to just looking at the shape and figuring out how to fit it, and not sitting there and think, well, it's a problem that I have to make this alteration to this pattern. It's just, this is a reality. This pattern is not going to look good on me.
You're making something custom. You're making the garment fit.
Yes. You're making something fit me. This is something I'm struggling with right now because I'm still working on this pant sloper. I'm still trying to figure out what is wrong with it. And I'm to the point now where I think I need a full belly adjustment. So that's the next thing I'm going to try. And there's a little part of me that's like, now I'm going to be trying to get it all the way up to my natural waist, which is really high. I don't like wearing things at my natural waist because it is so high. It's basically the bottom of my rib cage. And I'm like, can I find a way to make the sloper fit in a way that's both comfortable and doesn't have these weird wrinkles in it? And it can be very frustrating, and I'm struggling a bit with that right now.
What you could do is draft the pant sloper to be at your natural waist, have that fit, and then when you make a stylized pattern off that, drop the waist from that. Yeah,
and that's probably what I'm going to have to do.
Yeah.
And I understand that the sloper is not, the final pair of pants. It's just still that frustration of
totally.
There's no way that I don't think I can draft this pattern to have the waist sit where I want the waist to sit, and that's. That's just a reality. That is what my body is, and to make it fit, I'm going to have to get over that. But that is something that I have to learn to embrace, because that's how I'm going to make something that looks good on me.
Yeah.
How about you, Meg? How does sewing help you learn about your body?
I mean, I'm not going to lie to everybody and just say, I'm just loving my body, loving sewing I'm still working through it. It's definitely helping. I don't know. As great as social media can be, sometimes it's hard posting things and seeing comments and that sort of thing too, that kind of hinders, if you're feeling good or you feel like you just made something great, that you feel it looks really great on you, and then you're like, oh, I guess not everybody feels.
I know people can be pretty mean, and I think especially we're kind of in front of these communities, and it's people are not shy about weighing in.
Yeah, but I'm definitely learning every day with each thing that I make. And it's just good learning about that. And I don't know. I'm still working. I don't really have much to say. I'm just still working through this. So, I'll just kind of listen throughout.
Yeah. Well, and it comes down to it.
And I'm really on board. Like, I do love this idea. And I really hope soon I can get to this place where I'm just totally fine with everything and just sewing for my body. And, because right now I'm really just sewing for, the trend piece or what's really in right now. And maybe it's not the best, but it's fun. I don't know.
Well, I think the conversation that we're having right now is really important, because
it is.
We do believe, all of us, in body positivity, but we're all struggling to get there.
Exactly. Like, I love the idea of this. I just hope that I can really I can say, I don't hate my body, but I wish I could love it more and just be okay with it and stop trying to change it.
And it's I lost it. I'm sorry, I can't remember.
Well, maybe that's the point. Maybe it is a journey.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Totally.
And I think that you could get there and then cycle through again and have to work back to that place where you're kind of at peace. But I think that's the nature of it.
Society has really strong messages, and it's a fight to ignore them. So on a more technical level, how do you guys work around standardized measurements to make sewing more successful for your bodies?
I think I do a lot of just cross-sizing. I do acknowledge the fact that I'm not just one size. I just do those key measurements, and I'm very fine with crossing in. I'm bigger this size here, and so that's what I do. I don't standardize myself into one size. That's why I do like multi-size. When you print the pattern, they still have all the sizes and different shoulder and everything.
One of the things I love about your pattern play column in Sew News is that you often put that note in there that if it's a single size doesn't fit you, just draw in a size line to get between your two lines. And a lot of instructions don't bother to talk about that, and I really do appreciate that you do that. I can't remember if I ever leave it in, but I love that you do it.
Kate just edits it out every time.
With her red pen.
Yes, my red pen.
Okay, no, we don't have room for this time. Oh, jeez.
Awkward.
It's funny.
Yeah. For me, I think I start from the beginning and really try to pick styles that I think are going to work with my body shape. And so, honestly, I don't do a whole lot of experimenting and exploring outside of that. I pretty much, like boxy, kind of big and roomy. But I definitely have to think about proportions because I have short legs and I am short, so dress proportions are sometimes a little bit hard for me, also because I have swimmer shoulders, and so if some things can fit me in the shoulders, but if it's a dress, it can be hard to fit it through the body because I'm a little bit more through the hips, a little bit more narrow. So but I think for me it's really just starting with something that I think is going to work and be a good silhouette for my shape. Because I'm not making a lot of really fitted things right now, but even ready to wear. I've never really been into super fitted things. So I think it's and I think that you learn that through sewing because I definitely, when I first started sewing, I would make things, and anything with a super fitted waist doesn't really work for me because I'm more of a rectangle. I don't really have a super defined waist, but gosh, how many dresses did I make before I figured that out?
Right.
So I think you learn, and it's not necessarily about you learn what looks best on you from another person's perspective. The ideal is that you're making those decisions based on how you feel in something, and then I think that you learn that through sewing.
Yeah. I agree with both of those, and I don't know that I have anything to add to them. I definitely blend between sizes on a regular basis. I like to add vents sometimes on shirts if they're too straight because, like I have mentioned, very flared hips, and so working around that is always a thing. And yeah, very much it has been about learning what kind of patterns I think feel good and look good on me. And they're not always necessarily the same things. I have a couple of patterns where I kind of look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, this is not particularly flattering. Oh, but I really love wearing it.
But I just don't care.
Yeah, I just don't care. I really love wearing it. I'm just going to wear it.
If it makes you feel good, then...
And that's a important thing is caring less about whether you necessarily feel like people are going to look at you and be like, oh, she's so gorgeous, and more be like, I feel good and comfortable and this makes me happy, so I don't care what anybody else thinks.
Right, and I think it's about feeling like yourself.
Yes.
You know, and that's coming from kind of internally not really thinking about how something looks from another person's perspective, really trying to keep it kind of within yourself and make decisions from there. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I kind of forgot about this, but I just kind of talking about this kind of brought it up, and how you asked me before and I just didn't even remember it until now, how sewing helped me through, a time when I wasn't feeling really great about my body. There was the time where I wasn't feeling very well. I'd never been, that size before, and sewing helped me because that's when I really started to make a lot of leggings because they were so easy to fit and easy to make, and I didn't have to because I couldn't fit into any of my clothes. And then I would just embrace getting all these crazy spandex, and so I was really just all I wore was leggings, but in all these gorgeous like spandexes that I got, and that really helped, just the ability to make that through that time in my life. And it was fun, and I learned a lot about sewing spandex and leggings and really using fun fabrics, and I ended up feeling a lot better just having all these awesome spandex leggings. I had about like 30 and I were to make them more comfortable myself, not the elastic. I would draft them so they'd have that wide band because that's just so much more comfortable. And so I just remembered that right now, how that really did help me through that time. Sewing really, really did.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to spend a lot of money just on then it's just like, am I battling myself just wanting to get out of that, but I guess it wasn't good for me then, just changing back into getting into my old clothes. Like, there's just so much it's just so much to think about. It's like, I guess there is no right and wrong. It's just kind of how you feel in yourself at the time. And just knowing your body. And
I feel the same way about elastic waist pants, and I have made a few more this summer, and I don't know. I think I made a pair recently that I feel like I really didn't need, but I wanted because some of my other more fitted pants are kind of tight through the summer, and I'm like, you know what? This is a kindness to myself. This is me making some clothes that are going to be very forgiving with my weight and my body right now, and that I feel comfortable in and feel good about wearing. And that was kind of a nice way to think about it, and to really. I don't know, just kind of get out of that loop of feeling negative about my body and just doing something about it, whether it's, a temporary fix or not, and just moving on, and being more objective, like, hey, this summer I've been celebrating a lot and eating a lot of cake and visiting craft breweries, and that's living life, and that's I think just kind of stepping back and being objective about it rather than having that self-judgment loop. It's just
exactly, because I always think you're always your own worst critic. I never look at anyone else, even on Instagram, and think negatively of. I think everyone looks great and what they make, but it's just. But me just thinking about myself too. I always have to remind myself, Well,
it's the same thing as when we're looking at something we sewed and finding the two little missed stitches. It's like, this is not, nobody else is going to notice this. Everyone else is just going to be impressed. And we need to remember that our bodies are like that too. That there may be some people out there who are looking at other people's bodies and judging them, but those people aren't really worth caring about, honestly.
Yes, I know. It's always the positive do outweigh the negative, but the squeaky wheel gets the oil.
Yep,
those are the ones that really get in your head.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Thank you so much for this conversation. I know we're all a little bit raw right now.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I know.
I thought about one more thing that I wanted to just mention.
Yes.
Because I think that, sewing, I don't know. I think it's so powerful because I hope this is going to come out right. Because I would rather be wearing something that's a little bit bigger that I feel really confident in than trying to squeeze myself into something that doesn't fit in this moment, because I think that confidence is going to affect how people perceive you more than how you look, probably,
Absolutely.
So I think that, I don't know, just make a bunch of elastic waist pants, everybody.
All right, let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back with a really cool interview.
Well, Well, on the topic of body positivity, I was super excited to talk with Erica Schmitz of My Body Model. We were talking in our last segment about how the sewing community and the sewing industry has really stepped up and started to embrace a wide variety of bodies. And I think Erica's My Body Model really addresses an area that hadn't been addressed yet, which is croquis, which are, typical fashion croquis use kind of insane standards and proportions. And she's created a tool for sewists where you enter your measurements and it creates custom croquis that you can sketch on and create, kind of test out outfits, test out proportions. It's a really useful tool.
It's a great tool.
As you're making your wardrobe that fits for your body and for your lifestyle. So let's hop into that, and then we'll come back and discuss a few things. I am so excited to welcome Erica Schmitz to the Sew and Tell podcast today. Erica lives in Portland, Maine, and she was nice enough to call us on vacation while in Albuquerque. Erica is the founder of My Body Model. Thanks so much for joining us, Erica. Can you tell us a little bit about My Body Model?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be talking to you in real life instead of just on Instagram. My Body Model is a website where you enter your measurements and you get a made-to-measure fashion drawing template of your body that you can draw and plan your sewing plans or fashion or wardrobe planning on.
Right. Well, and a few of us on the Sew News staff have been lucky enough to try this out, and it's been amazing on a number of different levels, from a very practical level of having this tool to use, but also to just be represented in a way that we're not used to have, an actual body, not a fashion standard croquis, basically.
Yeah, it's kind of remarkable that the fashion standard drawing templates called croquis are so disproportionate to real body proportions. Even runway models don't look like the standard fashion template.
They're kind of alien looking.
They're really stretched out.
Yeah.
Most of the length is in the legs and the arms and very long necks. And it's really hard, based on those drawings, to know in any way, shape, or form what a garment will look like on a real body, much less your own unique body shape. So I really created My Body Model because I was looking for something that I could draw on so I could visualize all the gazillion sewing ideas that I had that were keeping me awake at night. And I needed more than a list. I wanted to be able to see them. And I really couldn't find anything out there that looked like me. There are some body positive, realistically proportioned fashion drawing templates out there, but everybody's different and none of them look like me. So first I started by tracing over a photograph of myself, and I was like, there's gotta be an easier way to do this. So there has to be an app for that. And there wasn't. So I asked a lot of my friends and reached out to the sewing community and knitting community about whether this was something they would find useful. And the answer was, yes, please do this. And we actually got it started through a crowdfunding campaign a couple of years ago, which is awesome. Like, this is a product that was created by the maker community for the maker community. And thanks to all those initial Kickstarter backers, we now have a website where you can enter your measurements and get a beautiful outline of your body that you can print out in various different layouts and draw all of your ideas on, whether digitally or on paper. Because if you sew, you're a fashion designer. Even if you follow a pattern exactly, there are almost infinite design decisions that you're going to make about fabric choice, print placement. If there's buttons,
there are
the
so
choices
many
of buttons out there.
Options. That's the hardest part.
the hem length, the sleeve, like all these different design details that you're in control of. You are a fashion designer. And not only that, but you're the fashion model. You're creating this garment for your body. And this allows you to visualize and plan and make decisions, those creative decisions that we make, and be able to see them on your shape.
Right. I like that. I think I'm going to add Amanda Carestio, fashion designer, to how I describe myself. I really like that. But it's so true. And we had you on for So News column, the common thread in our August-September issue, and you kind of brought your perspective from my body model development, and for a chat and a conversation about body positivity. And I can, having watched this tool develop over the years, I can totally see how that kind of outcome would be so positive for people. But did you start with that in mind? Did you know from the very beginning that this was going to be, a powerful tool for people, but also something that made people, feel better about themselves or feel more, practical about their shape? Or did you have a sense that would happen?
I knew from our focus groups that we did and through the Kickstarter campaign that it was going to be a useful tool, and I knew it was going to be a fun tool to use. And I had a sense just from my own experience about how helpful it is to really see your body in 2 dimensions and to be able to creatively play as an artist, literally with like whether it's crayons or colored pencils or whatever on an outline of your body is really freeing. And it somehow turns off the mean, judgy parts of your brain and turns on this creative, artistic side of your brain, which I experienced, but I really didn't know how it would be experienced by others in the community. And I'm just surprised again and again by the emotional response that people have, both to seeing their body model outline for the first time. So many people described that they actually cried when they saw it. I get emails from people saying, this is the first time I've ever looked at my body without judgment. A few weeks ago, I got an email from a woman who said, I always thought I was a swamp monster. And when I saw my body model, I realized I'm not a swamp monster.
Oh, man. I had the exact same response. It was like, where are these tears coming from? It was just, I don't know. It was some kind of joy and, I don't know, kind of euphoria at this just light bulb moment. And for me, it was exactly that, about kind of turning off that judgment and being really practical. And I think I had an aha moment because I was, looking at my outline and thinking, no wonder those things didn't work for me, and no wonder these other things did, because the proportions are different for everybody. And I'm definitely on the shorter side, but there's lots of different ways to be short. So it's I think it really was an emotional response for me, and it's a wonder that we went so long without this kind of tool. And I think it's, I think it's in line with progress that is being made in the sewing industry in general. But definitely kudos to you for seeing that hole and filling it with a tool that's really useful, but also very powerful and impactful for people. That's good work right there.
It's been so amazing. And, to see yourself represented is really powerful. To be able to design and plan for your body, that's part of why we sew for ourselves in the first place, right? And so it just didn't make sense to me to be drawing my ideas on a body that didn't look like me. And also the clothes when I started sewing for myself, it was after a long period of illness and injury, and it was like sewing my own clothes was like a gift, like a thank you gift to my body for all that it had gone through. And it was really important to me that the clothes that I made would be kind and beautiful, for my body. And so it wasn't thinking about the garments in isolation, like a piece of art that you would just hang on the wall.
Right.
Like the canvas literally was my body. The muse literally was my body. And so I wanted to be able to plan and design in that way. And I think for a lot of us, when we start sewing, we think about the fabrics and all the gorgeous prints and all these really cool patterns. And it's making art. It really is. But it takes it to a whole other level when you're designing that art for the body that's going to be wearing it.
I love that. I love the idea of being your own muse. That's powerful.
It's a total mind shift.
Yeah.
It's a total mind shift because we're exposed to gazillions.
Right.
That's not even an exaggeration. Gazillions of messages and images throughout our lives,
right.
Since childhood, of what our bodies are supposed to look like. And it's never who we are, and
right.
whatever we look like right now, the ideal is something different because we're usually being sold something and told that if we just buy this one thing, we'll be happy.
Right.
And it doesn't work that way. We know through all the people that we know in our lives that our level of happiness, our level of satisfaction and joy and, attractiveness has nothing to do. It really has nothing to do with body shape or size. Some of the most confident and amazing people that I know are not going to be, do not fit into that socially or commercially defined standard of what is beautiful. And at the same time, some of the people that fit most closely into that commercially defined standard of what is beautiful are the most self-conscious, the most down on themselves,
right.
And obsessed with fixing that one last thing that it would take to be perfect. There's a total disconnect there. And one of the wonderful things about being part of the sewing community online is that we get to change and control the images that we consume on a daily basis. So through Instagram especially, or what Facebook groups we're a part of, we can choose to, well, first of all, we get exposed to all of these amazing people that are incredible style icons, really, like to be inspired by, and they're regular people looking absolutely amazing in the clothing that they make. And we can seek out and follow people with bodies that are similar to ours so that we can see ourselves represented and looking amazing. And that is incredibly inspiring. We can look and seek out people who are different from ourselves, and diversifying our feeds is really important also for inspiration, and to realize not just on an intellectual level, but on an emotional level, to really know in the depth, the core of your being, that diversity is beautiful, that everybody is different, and there is no one way to be beautiful, whatever beautiful means to you.
Right. Well, let's from there kind of jump into a few of the things that you mentioned in your article, and take those a little bit further. But the article itself was ways sewing can help you love your body.
It's really interesting to think about. I mean, at age 44 myself, I have been every size. My weight fluctuates a lot, and throughout my life, up and down. And really thinking about the times in your life when you were most happy versus the times in your life when you were most unhappy, it's not connected really to what size you were. And that's an important realization for sure. Just like notice thinking about who are the happiest people that you know, the most confident people that you know.
So true.
And it is very rarely that you can find any kind of correlation between that and, you know, commercial beauty standards or size, really.
Yeah. Yeah. So true.
It's also a really powerful tool, even aside from sewing, taking a picture of yourself every day in whatever you're wearing that day is a really great tool to learn about yourself and what do I really wear? What do I really like to wear? How did I feel in that garment, in that outfit that day? And you can learn more about what you enjoy wearing, what you reach for the most. And you can also start seeing patterns in what kind of colors you like to wear, what kind of shapes and silhouettes, what kind of fabrics. You learn a lot about yourself that can then inform your future sewing projects.
Absolutely. I feel like that is a lesson that takes a long time to learn, because when you start sewing and you've got so many possibilities, you know, I feel like I've definitely made things that in the long run were not, you know, were not as amazing as I thought they were going to be. And not even, you know, the end result didn't feel like me. And I think that for me, sewing has really kind of taught me a lot of lessons about what I like and having to make all of those decisions and kind of, I don't know, how to dress myself, which, you know, is in a way that that I feel confident, but I'm also, you know, comfortable. And, you know, it's very much about kind of discovering my identity in a lot of ways.
Yes, absolutely. I love that because I never really thought about myself having a style and, you know, what's my personal style? And you always have, like, if you take those surveys, am I romantic? Am I boho? Am I classic? It's like, no, I'm not any of those things.
Right.
Like, I don't really have a style. But then if you think of it in terms of what makes me feel like me, what do I like and what do I don't like? I have very clear opinions on what I do like to wear and what I don't like to wear. And when you put those lists together and you realize, oh, heck yeah, I do have a style. I almost swore on your show. I don't know if you're allowed to swear.
That's okay. We'll run with it.
I have a style.
I feel like the moment required it.
So it's really powerful, and that you don't need to look like anybody else. You don't need to fit into any box or definition. You get to figure out what you like, and then you can wear that.
Yeah, and that is a hard thing to do when you're given, you know, so many messages about what you should like. You know, I think it's really kind of turning off that that side of the brain and those messages and really deciding for yourself.
Yeah, and sewing is a big investment. It's a lot of time, a lot of effort. You cut into your precious fabric. And that's where drawing, for me, even as a quick sketch, for me, helps me just try on different things to see what I like or don't like about them. And it's really easy to get hung up at first about what's flattering, you know, in quotation marks, what's flattering or not flattering. But I really encourage people to think about, what do I like? What's pleasing to me? And instead of thinking about how do I want to look, to think about how do I want to feel? Absolutely.
I think that's a big shift. And part of the reason why I make a lot of elastic waist pants.
Yay! I am totally team elastic waist pants.
Yay!
I'm wearing some right now.
Me too.
There's certain things that I feel amazing in.
Exactly.
And certain things that I don't. I just don't feel. You know, I don't like things binding me, unless the exception is like really high-waisted leggings.
Oh yeah,
it feels so good. Like I've made several pairs of the Avery leggings by Helen's Closet that go practically up to my armpits, and it just feels amazing. I love it. But it doesn't bind or constrain. Like I can move freely, and it just feels really nice. But yeah, I guess that's elastic. But what feels good against your skin? What makes you feel comfortable and confident and powerful and strong, relaxed? However, any words that describe how you want to feel.
Exactly.
What are the types of garments, the types of fabrics, the colors even that help you to feel that way?
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It is lovely to have you. It is lovely to have your perspective on this as well. And I mentioned off air, but this particular article has a lot of people have given us feedback that it's something that really resonated with them. So thank you too for bringing that to our audience on all the levels. Thank you so much.
I love to hear that. Thank you so much. It's been great.
All right, I love Erica. She has so many good things to say on this topic.
Oh, absolutely. And I have to tell you, I love this tool. She was kind enough to let me do a my body model for the croquis I made to sketch out my Vienna wardrobe. You can see them in the magazine. Maybe I'll pop one up on the show notes page as well. That's coming up in several issues though, so not right away. But yeah, it was such a great tool. It was so useful. I'm still kind of wrapping my head around it because it's not necessarily what I picture my body is looking like, but it is what my body looks like. And so it's kind of weird to sit there and wrap my head around it, but at the same time, it's really useful to think about making these clothes and making sure that the things that I've chosen are going to look right on me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, I wish I knew about this sooner. I definitely need to give this a try. It's just hard reprogramming my brain because, I would take fashion illustration classes in school and you just learn a certain type of, it was never even a thought really. And so it's just, but I love this so much. I definitely need to try it out.
Yeah. When I first did it, there was just this moment when you look at it and you're like, that is me. That is me. I am represented. Yeah. I'm on paper. And again, like getting towards that kind of objective view of things like, okay, that's why this doesn't ever work for me. So I'm not going to try that again. Right. It's super powerful. And
absolutely.
As we all work towards having good relationships with our bodies.
It was funny. I sent mine to my husband and I'm like, does this look like me? And he's like, the head's too small. Yes, it will look better once I draw my own hair on it, all right? Does the rest of it look okay?
That is funny.
Oh, that is funny.
I know. But yeah, the head is like a head shape but without any hair on it. So just draw a little hair on and your head will look just fine.
So now let's get into our SewJo segment. And this is at the time in the episode where we go around and talk about what's given us our sewing mojo. I always mess that up because it is, the two words in one.
Right.
So Kate, what's your SewJo today?
All right. So you guys remember the cork purse that I have been talking about on and off for 2 months, 3 months, something like that? Well, I'm almost there. I'm so close. I've got the purse itself finished. I just need to make the strap and a cork tassel to go with it, obviously, because you need a tassel for your cork. So the bag itself is done. It looks great. It's got all the pockets I love. My husband's really impressed. It's got embroidery. It's got rivets that have stone on them. It looks so good. I'm so proud of it. And I feel so good about myself for making it because I really love the way it looks. And also, I actually got some sewing done. So yay, go me. SewJo.
How do you make a cork tassel? Are they easy to make?
What I did, I actually, there's a place, I'll have to look it up and put it in the show notes, where I get a little cap. And then
you just kind of roll it.
Yeah, you roll it and you cut it into little strips, except at the very top, and then you roll it up, stick it in the cap, and you put a little screw in there. And,
I love that.
Yeah,
I was just had an idea because I wanted to start incorporating cork into my my sewing circuit, but I think a pair of cork tassel earrings would be so cute. With the cap and then a little dangle, because I am obsessed with tassel earrings right now. I love them.
Oh my gosh, I wonder if I could find a cap that size, because now I want to do that too.
How about you, Amanda? What's your SewJo?
My SewJo is summer forever. I mean, I know it's only August, but I feel like my planner self is starting that, like, you really need to start thinking about fall. You really need to start thinking about fall.
I had that
Quit
thought this
sewing
week
all
too.
the linen. Quit sewing all the tinsel.
Never stop sewing the linen.
I know, but it happens every year about this time. But I'm sticking with my plans. I'm gonna sew what makes me happy, and that is summer dresses.
And even if you only get to wear it once before the weather changes, that is worth it because you'll wear it next year.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
How about you, Meg?
I know. I've been thinking about sewing fall stuff now too, because I just feel like my summer clothes to summer weather in Canada ratio is a little off. And the fact that I, wear pajamas most days. But my SewJo really is, I want to try wearing more of my, let's face it, I got enough on my sewing hands.
Yes, you do.
The old wedding, approaching a month away, pretty much. So but I've been obsessed. I feel like Amanda right now, dropping a hashtag is pose like the pattern model.
Man.
Have you seen that?
I haven't.
One? Oh, it's so good. I stumbled upon it. And then I clicked it, and it's so great. People wearing the garment, and they're posing like the pattern model. So I think my SewJo is really kind of like an Instagram SewJo, where I want to try and just take a picture of something that I've already made, summary, and pose like the pattern model.
Oh man, you could have so much fun with all the Berta style patterns.
Oh yeah, they've got some
poses
cute
are
stuff.
so funny.
They are funny.
Oh, I love them. Yeah, so
that's awesome.
Awesome, I love it.
So for Sew and Tell, reminder that we're doing an Instagram live for all the readings of the answers to this week's question, which hopefully you guys enjoyed listening to us talk about it and share. And hopefully you can share a little something too. But our question this week is, how has sewing helped you embrace your body? So August 15th, we'll be jumping on the old gram and reading some of your answers. So excited about that.
Yeah, please share your experiences.
Yes. Yeah, we'd love to hear.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys, for having
Good episode.
Yeah, definitely good episode. A little deep.
Yeah.
In our feelings today, but that's okay. I feel like that's
how
a
we
good
grow
thing to do sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes it is good to go there and just, dive into those thoughts and, vocalize them. And I know that was really helpful for me, even to just kind of get my thoughts out there.
Yeah, sometimes
so
it's nice to just admit it.
Yeah.
That you have these issues.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah,
I hope
thank
we've made
you.
you feel a little bit better about your body. And happy stitching, guys.
Yeah.
Happy
Until next time.
Yeah.
For links to everything we talked about in this episode, go to our show notes page at sewdaily.com/sewandtell. If you want to get in touch with us, you can email us at sewandtellpodcast@fwmedia.com or visit us on Instagram at sewandtellpod. Answer the Sew and Tell question, tell us your SewJo, or just leave us some feedback. If you enjoyed our show, please subscribe on your podcasting platform of choice. And please leave us a review, ideally a good one, because that helps listeners like you find our podcast. And tell your sewing friends about us too. Thanks for listening, and happy stitching. Sew and Tell is a production of F&W Media Studios and is produced and hosted by Meg Healy, Amanda Carestio, and me, Kate Zaynard. Our audio engineer and editor is Evan Rutherford, and our executive producer is Jared Mayer.